For this project, you're going to be creating your own negative space shadow drawing from different objects around your house. You'll see in my examples that I chose to use my husband's bike, and I used the shadow that the wheel cast with its spokes, and then also some plants that I had around the house. You'll see that in these images, I'm using two different size sketchbooks, so you'll be able to use what you have available. And then the coloring medium that I will show you later in the video is up to you. You'll be adding color just to the negative space areas, leaving the positive space areas a stark blank white. This will create a striking visual contrast. So let's get into how to do this project. So believe it or not, I do not have a bike. My husband has a bike, and he does not have a kickstand. So unfortunately, I have to use a chair to make it work. But it is around 1:30 right now. So the way the sun is giving me a really nice harsh shadow with the tire and the spokes of the wheel. Now, if you're using something else, like I might set up my plants, you'll see that in a later portion of the video. You're gonna want to pay attention again to the cast shadow. So I'm gonna speed you through the next step. Now, not all of you are going to have a large drawing pad like I have. I am lucky enough to have one of these at home. I do not always have a large drawing pad myself either, but you could easily use several sheets of paper taped together or just laid out together, or you can just use a smaller sheet of paper. For my other plant, I'm going to use a small sketchbook, so you'll see that later. But you're going to set up your paper in a way that gives you the most interesting shadows. So I'm going to kind of position mine. I really like the way you can see some of the tire, so I think that's actually going to be my setup. And I'm just using this half, that's just the cover of the sketchbook. So for this project, again, you're going to need drawing paper. I have even seen people use, and in some of the examples, you could use the inside of a brown paper bag, which is really neat because the brown craft paper looks amazing. I have an eraser and then pencils. You could also use a Sharpie or markers, but I want to erase my lines so that I can kind of perfect all of this later. And you'll see in the next time lapse that I'm going to start drawing just around the inside or right around all of the contour lines that the shadow creates. So negative space is what is white, and positive space is what is the cast shadow, because that's the actual object. Negative space is the space around an object. Here you'll see me speeding through the drawing process of tracing around all of the negative space. I'm making sure to take my time and using a pencil as I slowly work my way across the paper to finish outlining the shadows. One important thing that I have not mentioned yet is make sure that you are drawing on a smooth surface. So I have a drawing pad that makes everything quite a bit easier, but you may want to put a flat piece of cardboard or a flat board underneath your drawing paper as you are drawing. In this next clip, you're going to see me drawing my houseplant shadow. You can use any other object, but I chose to use my houseplant, and this may have been quite a bit easier if I used a larger piece of paper, but I liked the way that it looked with just a little bit of the positive space and a lot of negative space showing. For the painting process later, I found this was very beneficial when adding color. As I said, it's going to be a little bit trickier if you have a smaller sketchbook or drawing paper. It's doable, but it's tricky. This is my small little guy. It is considerably tinier than this sketchbook. Drawing paper or printer paper will work a little bit better. I am using my Monstera plants, and it has taken a little bit of work to get them in a placement that I like, and I really like the way this just looks very simple. So I'm going to start sketching that out, and you'll see the process in the next clip. Nothing else to add here. I am just kind of working with the breeze and sketching out the negative space outlines as I move across the paper, and this one took a lot less time, as you can see. So, pros and cons of using a smaller sketchbook. Yes, there is less surface area, but that can be both a pro and a con. So, not too much to do, but I have all of that white negative space to work with for the next step, so that's going to be really fun. I chose to open up my sketchbook so that I could get that full vertical drawing space. And I also, pro and con of using my Monstera plants outside, they were a little bit windy, but not too bad. The breeze was okay, so I just kind of was patient and waited and got my drawing done when I was ready. Now you'll see me going over my pencil lines with a black waterproof marker. You could use a Sharpie. I have one of my paint pens that will not bleed when I add water to it. And then when you're adding color, you can use any material that you have available to you. I chose to use watercolor pencil because it's one of my favorite painting mediums, and I'm going through and adding color to all of the negative space areas, leaving the positive space areas white. Watercolor paints are activated by adding a little bit of water at a time, so I am slowly going through and activating all of the color and letting it come to life. Then I add a little bit of extra watercolor pop to make everything stand out, and I am very pleased with how my projects turned out, and I cannot wait to see what you create with your negative space shadow drawing artwork.